humanity's atrocities, taking shiny objects, misunderstanding their properties. Europe was dead and our people turned into batteries, and we power the system with blood and life. Matrix shit, but of course Neo had to be white. And you take our history, split our family apart, colonize our minds, we fight back and we get shot by a person with a badge, authorized to take action. If you step out of line, you can die for an infraction, you can die for mouthing off or being disrespectful, you can die for rocking hoodies and pulling out your credentials. Fancy terminology for phones or a wallet. You can die for interactions that started with smelling chronic. You can die for talking with a strong attitude. You can die for driving in the wrong neighborhood. On this land of occupying forces, get those animals off those horses. Officers, overseers, what don't you get? Get your hefty bag and shovel and clean up your horse. On this land of occupying forces, get those animals off those horses. Officers, overseers, what don't you get? Get your hefty bag and shovel and clean up your horse. You can die by accident or suicide, or so they say. You can die in custody, police culture is caught on tape. You can die for buying guns and keeping your family safe. Careful when you challenge gang injunctions or the POA. You can die cause SWAT swears they had the right address. You can die from having autism, being stronger than them. You can die from mental illness. You can die from being illness. You can die from trying to film this. You can die from trying to think it. The power of the gun, corruption of the bad, tasers and batons, the whooping of that ass, hunting of the blacks, evicting Mexicans. It's the roots and infiltration of the Ku Klux. Cops take half the budget, always wanting more. What is civil asset forfeiture making a fortune for? Police Bill of Rights means they'll always be acquitted. He reached for my gun, oh my god, he tried to get it. I feared for my life, that's the evidence you're given. Even though the video executions, we see them, yo. No justice, we're just attending the funerals. What's going on with this crazy racist scenario? It ain't broken, it's working just fine. Ruled by a supremacy, I'm sorry it's white. My city council, all Hispanic and Latino, doesn't make a difference. Why? Most a bunch of vendidos. On this land of occupying forces, get those animals off those horses. Officers, overseers, what don't you get? Get your hefty bag and shovel and clean up your horse. On this land of occupying forces, get those animals off those horses. Officers, overseers, what don't you get? Get your hefty bag and shovel and clean up your horse. That's the sound of the police. That's the sound of the beat. That's the sound of the police. That's the sound of the beat. They go ride horses. After 400 years,
Yo, hopefully you guys like that music video by the one and only ILLNES.
Hello.
What's up? Lost
Aslan.
Natives podcast.
LA Natives.
LA
Least
Natives.
accepted natives.
Least accepted natives. LA Natives podcast. What's up, Zero? What's up, ILLNES? What's up, DJ Warlock?
What is
Hip-hop.
up?
What up?
Well, DJ Warlock won.
DJ Warlock 1. The one and only DJ Warlock 1. I'll tell you, the fire beats in Los Angeles underground, boom bap, hit up DJ Warlock 1. The hardest working man in the industry. He takes his job serious. When we did Doctrine of Discovery, he was as professional as possible. And so shout out to DJ Warlock 1. Shout out to my homie ILLNES. What up, G?
What's up, Savage? How
you doing?
Good. Don't give Warlock 1 a sample. Don't be a sample, because Warlock 1 will slice you up real nice.
He's the real deal.
I appreciate all the early birds joining us today at this beautiful Wednesday evening. Sorry we're a little late, but we were just getting set up to prepare a great show for you guys.
Well, we have DJ Warlock 1 here, and whenever he can make it, it takes a little longer to set up, so we apologize for that. But we're gonna get into some good conversation. Like I was telling ILLNES, I kind of reflected on my style here as a podcaster, as someone who is sharing information with the community, and I said, hey bro, let's just have a good conversation about current topics. I'm sure the audience is going to want to chime in and say stuff. I'm sure there's tons of people who disagree with me, because I guess Armando's someone, we have a troll that's like trying to
there's someone online right now that's constantly disliking all of our
Well,
videos.
of
They're
course.
only making it obvious, but we appreciate them, because this is what this platform is for. You could agree or disagree.
Yeah, you don't have to agree with me or what I say. It just happens to be that Armando asked me to be on this show. right? But everyone has the power to make their own show and voice their own opinion. And I used to, I got to admit, the first 10 episodes, I kind of got hurt about stuff like that. Like, I didn't know how to handle that. I was like, what the fuck? Someone disagrees with me?
But I'm doing good things. Like,
right.
I'm well-intended, wholehearted, honest.
All
right?
about them, right? And
Yeah.
someone disagrees with that, but that's okay. I have to have individuals that have different opinions, and with those different opinions, I'm humble enough to say, well, hey, maybe he has a point, maybe he's right. I'm not like that. I don't like to be in a space like Kanye where he has a fucking head the size of the planet,
So what do you mean? Like, we're preaching everyone's equal. We all have a right to basic things.
I think
Dignity,
we're all
respect, and then there's people that disagree with you.
No, I think what I'm saying is that we're all individuals,
Yeah.
and it's impossible to be like in sync with somebody's mindset, right? You can be convinced and agree, but like in sync with the mindset is like kind of difficult to do, right?
And it depends on what stage of your life you're in as,
Right.
as well. Like,
But I
you
take
might have agreed or not agreed.
right. But I take the Mexica understanding, or from what Masatzin has told me, is the sovereignty. That word alone kind of just really helped me understand that people are going to have different opinions, right? But
Yeah,
if
definitely.
you're sovereign, you stick to your guns and what you know and it doesn't need to be a defense. It doesn't need to be like, if someone disagrees with me, I'm not going to sit there an hour and trying to convince them
I've made that mistake.
of
plenty
what
of
I'm
times.
saying.
Yeah, I feel you.
I just rather go, I understand your position, and I peacefully walk away, especially if he's my people, right? Because I'm not at war with my people. I'm not even at war with those people, I am sovereign, right? I'm sovereign, and the sovereignty, when sovereignty exists, then the art gets exposed, right?
Yeah.
How I look,
Because
what I talk
I
about,
am
what my
able-
music is about.
I am able to. There's no. It's hard for me to say we're allowed to express, right? Because it's no one's there to give permission. But unfortunately, sometimes you exist in environments where there's tyranny, and someone trying to stifle that, whether directly or indirectly.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so amazing that if you are able to, like, in your mind, in your heart, and express yourself, that no one can stop you. So you should, and you need to
Right.
keep doing it.
Right. Well, that's what we try to, I guess, convey the message of Valley Natives, is that keep your sovereignty, keep your opinions, but learn how to agree to disagree, especially with your brother, right? And I'm not saying you should kumbaya everything. I'm saying be wise, be intelligent, keep your circle strong, which leads me to how I got to meet you.
Yeah, what
With
up?
the band Salvajes, right?
Savages.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that was an amazing experience. I don't know. Quick recap. 2015, boom, dropped an album. There was many years before that, getting to know each other. Somehow it all synced up. We're all kind of different personalities that worked well together. I like to say it was kind of the glue a little bit, just in the sense that I understood everybody and everybody's moments, where they were at as an artist. And, I never knew that, even though I always heard about how groups split up, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's like nothing nor the other. It's just people grow differently.
Right.
But my boys are still doing their thing. Check out everybody out. And with that whole movement was about being a savage. And it's a word. This is pre a lot of the new use of the word to describe certain things. I feel a little appropriated, but it's a word to describe your passion, your heart. It's one of those words you can use in place of many. And if you're a savage, when someone says it, you understand what they mean. It's like, hey, man, I really liked your B-boy set. That was pretty savage. He's complimenting your skill, tenacity, your abilities, whatever it might be. Or even working, dude, you've been working like a savage, haven't you? And it's
Right.
because you've been putting in a lot of work and you could see it.
I have to be honest with you.
Yeah, and this is
When
that's
I first heard this name,
Yeah.
and I played with you guys,
Yeah.
I'm talking in the first minute or two of hearing the name. Oh, we are the
Salvajes.
Salvajes.
Yeah.
I went, whoa, wait. And then I thought about it, and I went, oh, cool name.
Yeah.
Why? Because it made me
Think about it, right?
It made me say, wait a minute. That's what they used to call us back.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you're taking it. It's like a double entendre, right? Where you go,
It's also reclaiming something. And even though these words that we're using aren't ours, that our language has been taken. Even though, hablas español, también lo mismo. Sos tu pinche rey.
Right.
My thing is that, if this is the only way I can communicate with my brethren and my sister and everybody that I know, that I'm going to take the words and make them what they mean to us and what they need to mean.
Well, I could see...
I refuse for it to be derogatory.
Here's my second thought about the name Salvajes was I immediately saw an 1819 poster of wanted criminals.
Might use that for an album cover.
That's what I saw.
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
I was like, wow, that's cool. I like that. Because I could see those quote unquote outlaws or quote unquote savage Indians proud of being on a piece of paper going, oh, fuck, look, that's my face.
Yeah.
And, taking pride in their distortion, right? Their distortion of who you are and what you're trying to do.
Amazing way to put it. I had this whole thing in my head that what was gonna be said, but the distortion.
Right.
Like I'm not proud that this person who's impoverishing me and making me suffer is noticing me.
Uh-huh.
What I'm happy is that they're affected and now their reign over me is hindered.
Right.
It could be stopped.
Right.
You make God bleed in a sense.
It could backfire. It could backfire because when those posters went up, people in the communities embraced them and said, oh, that's our hero. But they're trying to paint them in a negative light.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they're using certain words and certain connotations. So I love the fact that your group used that word in the way that I saw it. And you have to do some thought to see it. Right? And that's cool.
Yeah, just hear one song. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. No, that was a cool group. I liked Josue, MC Hempstead.
Like Hempstead, Alpharetti.
Yeah.
And then the beat maker extraordinaire, Cloudy Daly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, all a mad talented artists. Mike's still doing shows. He's doing his thing in Santa Ana, all over the place.
Look, the hardest thing to do as an artist is stay in a group.
Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah, because everybody has their own vibe. Everybody has their own agenda. I myself am included in that, because when we had El Vuh going, it's not like everybody agreed with what the decisions were being made. And I have to say that I forced a lot of decisions, but I also paid for it. So it wasn't really forcing it. It was more like I'm investing in this idea. And some people could take that wrong and say, oh, well, you're ignoring what I'm saying or how I feel. It's not that. Is that there's an investment in music that needs to be monetized, and you have to make those decisions sometimes.
Yeah.
Unless you're a billionaire and just don't give a shit and just be like, fuck it.
It is what it is, yeah. And as a group, it's very difficult to have everybody on the same, from mindset to the schedule, Everybody's living different lives. And
I think the bands that did get it right were people who dedicated their time on like a job, you got to be there at this time.
And that's hard for us being savages. You know what I'm saying? We're wanted. We're on posters.
Absolutely.
It's very difficult because all of us suffer from the labor intensive, pay for your time as a living being, right? Every hour of your life is worth something.
Well, and that's what
everything's veered towards that. And so you have to separate and work harder to survive in the one that's being forced down your throat, then so you can finally have those moments in your creative spirit shine. And I understand juxtaposing, like you need a little suffering to give you perspective. And I really believe that's the whole point of our souls. That's another thing. But no, this isn't fair, right? We have so much we can do with ourselves, which improves our community, which then improves our environment and our world. That is being taken from us from each hour being taken to create value that can help us exist.
Absolutely.
I hate that.
The cool thing about your group too that I loved was that you guys are from Santa Ana.
What's up, Santana? Right.
And that was close to my heart just because I grew up there for a few years. And I've experienced I like to say that I lived a whole lifetime in Santa Ana, but I only lived there for 2 years. But the time that I spent there, excuse me, I was drinking that Jamaica. But anyways, the time that I spent there, man, I experienced a lot of life. That was the first time I seen a raid happen on a house, and it scared the shit out of me because I heard loud banging and men with guns going into an apartment.
Voices you've never heard before, yelling this deep baritone
Like
oh yeah, it's
10 in the
traumatizing.
morning,
It's
Saturday. 10 in the morning, Saturday, you're riding your
10
bike
a.m.
down the
lucky.
street.
6 a.m. is usually when they break in.
But they were like broad daylight, boom, just it's just.
Where is he?
Just insane. No, it didn't happen at my house, but I was across the street from it. Just my jaw dropped, going, "What the
Across
fuck
the
is
streets?
going
Oh,
on?"
man, that's
Like
lucky.
just as a little kid, right?
Yeah, Santa Ana is an intense land.
Man, talk about the people there. Talk about your experiences there.
It's like anything, the powers that be, whatever might have been at the time, or the neglect of, I don't know, omitting people's existence really creates and stifles their way to govern themselves, right? So a community doesn't have the resources and barely is figuring it out, especially a large immigrant community. It's happened to Salvadoreños in LA. It's happened to Mexicans in Santa Ana, and all the crime, all the stuff of people not having enough and suffering, and it creates gangs then with the youth, and then they go into and so this whole thing ends up with all these gangs, mad shootings all the time. I remember as a kid remembering how to know how far the bullets came, what park, and what neighborhood, what kind of gun maybe. I've been inside across the street, like you have been a raid. I've been right next door. It's happened to me and my family plenty of times. Shootings. I've seen some that I saw the day before. The next day they're dead. And my thing was I didn't figure out that was traumatic until maybe like 5-6 years ago, and it tripped me out, And I mean, you drink, you don't know you're coping for something. It was to the point that a raid happened and be like, oh, what's going on over there? Oh, it's just a raid. Like,
Wow.
oh yeah, this was probably just fucking moving to his rate. Like, it was like a normal thing. I didn't realize that this is normal. This isn't normal until you get right out of high school. You start, exploring different places and visiting colleges, going to college, do whatever you need to do, living out the world, traveling, figure stuff out real quick.
You know what was interesting about Santa that I noticed now that you talk about it is that it was exactly this. You're talking about it, and I'm a little older than you. So,
Yeah. I'm trying to say early '90s.
Yeah,
to the
so
2000s.
I was like late '80s or like beginning '90,
Probably
maybe
just
90,
as bad, yeah.
or maybe '89 is when I moved out of Santa Ana. But I'm gonna tell you why it was the most. Why I felt like I grew a lifetime there is that, I was in 4th grade, and around those years. And the kid next to me, he used to slick his hair back and wear cholo gear. He was like, I guess, maybe 10, 11,
Yeah.
maybe 11.
The older homies, brother, cousin, friend.
I don't know if it was a class that had 2 grades in it. He might have been a tiny bit older than me, but not by much. Go to school. Become friends with them. He was cool. He didn't have he dressed and looked like.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like his older,
Yeah.
whoever's in his life that's older is in that.
Probably, yeah, mentoring
Yeah,
him.
and he's mimicking this.
Absolutely.
And that's that weakness that we hold as men that has been traumatized and weakened. We don't find that strength, in our brothers. We have to find other ways, and one of them is, a gang where the point is to create violence against others just like you.
Right.
And
right.
I mean, I don't have to tell you. You know what it is.
So
you're
I
saying-
go to school one day. We're having a good time. Go to school next day. Cool. We start to become very close, and then, next week, known him for like a week and a half. He came to my house. We kicked it, and he's gone, dead. How did he die? I was like, telling my mom, I was all, what is dying? I didn't really get it. Like I didn't understand the whole full concept quite yet, because my father had just passed, so maybe I was trying to forget about what that is. How it just tripped me out that one day he was there, the next day he was gone because of that. Someone shot him, and he was like 11, had no older than 12. And someone took his life, and it tripped me the fuck out. At that point, I was like, this reality is different. This is something that, and then you go back to the stories, and then we go back and forth. At that 10 or 11 age, you start opening up your eyes, and you go back to East Los Angeles, where your mom's from, and we resume living in East Los Angeles, and it's just,
It's the same.
it's like, whoa.
Just bigger.
Yeah, and it's like you said.
Oh, man.
It's just you got It was normal to hear sirens. It was
Yeah.
normal to see my homie's uncle being chased by the cops down the street. It was normal to see this neighbor high on
to
heroin.
say nothing when you saw something, to ignore something that you know you probably should at any normal other place. You don't to erase things from your mind.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm spending a lot of time like saying these horror, but within that there was some beautiful things that are happening in the city. You know,
I do agree.
It's a weird thing, and I was
We take care of each other just a little bit more, I think. That's what I noticed.
And you're left alone a little bit when you're not in that. You know.
Yeah.
But as young men, especially, it doesn't matter. You're a young man.
You know,
Yeah.
that's good that you mentioned that, because when I moved back to East Los Angeles, the older cats would keep us away from bad things.
Yep.
Like we weren't age appropriate for it. It wasn't like they grabbed us and they put us in there. That was like the next generation that came after that. But there was still some of that code where you don't fuck with women. You know,
Yeah,
like,
and
you don't
and it's
fuck
not.
with
It wasn't
people's moms.
always just cholos. You know, all decked out with their sock check, boo. It's not always that. It's also even in my generation growing up. Like I'm older, right? As in, I was like 16, 17, 18, right? That when you're older, you're in the cusp of adulthood, where we were doing stupid shit, like just like they were, but we weren't banging, right? Still the same shit. You're gonna get caught up for the same stuff. It didn't matter, and you'll get thrown in a gang injunction. So you're even worse. You've never been in a gang, or you have tattoos or your cousins, right? So all of that, and yet there's still a code. My sister, sometimes my younger sister, shout out to my sister Syra. I think she's watching. What's up? She was at a party, and my friends see her there. What the fuck are you doing here? Like, what are you doing here? It's like, well, I'm just in a party. No, and my friend sat with her the whole night, like we were hanging out. Like, just make sure kept an eye on her, because he knows what goes on, you know. And it was just because he knows, like, that's my boy. No, this is not gonna happen. No one's in. Nah, don't talk to her, like, because they already know how they're friends, right? And so that's a code. That's important. Some people do remember that. We all, skip steps and fall off of the moral meter sometimes, but for some reason we know we're good people. We know when there's bad. We know we need to help.
Right.
Like it's what it is. Like, okay, you stole someone's purse and you ran. I don't think I'm gonna chase. But if you start beating this woman, like just believe you're getting tackled or something gets thrown at you, something needs to happen.
Yeah.
No,
it just corrupts. It's crazy how I have my story from the late 80s. And then you have your story from probably the early 90s, mid 90s, and it's still the same story, just getting more intense, right? Yeah. And to the point where people are, what's going to be the point where we decide? But it's also hard being in that area in Santa Ana because it's small. And everything around it is more wealthier than that little area.
I love that you brought this up. So the second thing you said, yes, it's interesting being in a place where most of the cities around you are in another tax bracket, and
absolutely,
and the farther you get, the harder it is to exist the way you exist in Santa Ana, right? Or in a lot of cities in Garden Grove, Anaheim. Shout out to all the sister cities, but like Laguna Niguel, and Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, or Belinda, right? You go around to Irvine, and then these areas where they don't even have access to sidewalks. It's these roads where you have to drive 10 minutes to go to the store, no matter what.
Like
there's no liquor
burbs,
stores.
suburbs.
It's built a little different, and it trips me out that wherever we went, we had to act a little different. I mention it as much as it's a reflex to mention it in music. Talk about it all the time. But the other part that you mentioned was what was the other part you mentioned? Talking about being surrounded by other cities. Oh, and how tight knit it is, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you walk into school and you're crossing 3 neighborhoods, right? And on top of that, you're a young man, and on top of that, you don't bang, and the only reason you're left alone is because you break dance.
Wow.
Right? And then you end up finding out that your mom's connected in more ways than you can understand.
Wow.
And then you find out that no longer exists, and so it's weird. You don't know. But I was lucky enough to be left alone. It's just a breakdancer. Leave him alone.
You get lucky. You get lucky in
hip-hop.
that way. You get lucky in that way, and then also too, what I understood growing up around the neighborhood is that if you weren't like trying to be in there, they ain't gonna just like drag you in. Like it isn't. They kind of respect the fact that you're staying out of that. Doesn't mean that you're not in the vicinity of danger, but they're not directly involving you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, I remember growing up in East LA, it's like, we pull up at a friend's house and someone jumps in the car and it's somebody that's active. But, you grew up with them because you went to school with them and now they're active. And
you want to go, I can't tell them to get out.
Yeah.
There's going to be a whole thing. Where are we going? Yeah. Oh man,
Just give me a ride. Just give me a ride. And he doesn't tell you where he's going. And he's like, just give me a ride, bro. And like,
But illness,
Yeah.
did you ever wear the Cortezes and the
Hell
baggy
yeah.
pants
Hell
and the
yeah.
big white shirt?
hell yeah. I never dressed the whole part. Pants not so big. My mom smacked the shit at me. But yeah, I rocked Cortezes. I b-board mostly with them. I rocked some of the attire, the high socks, all that. I never really had my hair bald at the age where I think it would have been, because I figured it out real quick. I would treat it different if I shaved my head. You know?
it's a crazy experience living in Santa Ana because it's, like I said, really small.
You know, like, I don't know, there was always been a stigma about Santa Ana ever since I was a kid that it was like a gang city.
It was for a while.
It was.
It was mainly the attention that it got.
Like I said,
Like growing
man,
up in middle school and high school, I lived in Cerritos. And Santa Ana wasn't that far away. And my parents were just always like, yo, be careful. You know, there's a lot of
It's like the-
cholos
it's
over
like
there.
the-
I'm like, wait a
yeah.
minute. Like, there's cholos in East LA. And my parents were like, no, it's just a whole different environment. Like, you don't know anyone over there.
Yeah. And
it's kind of like a border town.
like Europe, like as far as how close everything is together.
Yeah.
Like everyone's fighting everybody.
Absolutely. And then if you wanted to go to a
You gotta
nice
go around.
neigh-
You gotta
if you
go
want to go to a nice neighborhood, you could ride your bike there. Like, you know, you just had to keep going for a mile or two, and then you're in this other
A whole nother neighborhood.
whole nother reality, right? Where
Yeah.
cops aren't that aggressive towards you. And the cop story that where I got pulled by the back of my neck happened in Santa Ana. You know, but I was running right in front of the house of the main gangs that was, you know, around in that time. But again, I was 7 years old. I was 7, 8. No, I was about 10 years old.
Trying to let you know who's boss.
Yeah. You know, they make statements, and there was a lot of raids, like I said, and it was all done to intimidate the whole neighborhood. Now that I look
So the
back.
cities around Santa Ana, it's Anaheim.
So that's in the north, right? You got Anaheim, Garden Grove, Westminster's to the west. On the east, it's Irvine because it wraps all the way up to turns to Yorba Linda.
Yeah.
And Orange is right there as well, right? That's north.
And those are all just like white neighborhoods.
No, well,
upper.
Orange, Anaheim has Anaheim Hills because they figured it out. They separated the wealthy people, or the wealthy, not people, but the wealthy environment. So the tax bracket is what really separates people. But right by Disneyland, where all the money is like all fucked up neighborhoods. Right around it, all everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, and then so that's what I'm saying. Them Garden Grove's a sister city and part of Westminster as well. That community over there, and it's very delicate. Asian community. I don't know which one, but they knew what they were doing, man. They bought a lot of property. They bought a lot of land. They opened up a lot of business, and they back each other up, right? Sure, there's a little underground monopoly going on in there, but their culture is thriving.
Well,
right?
Santa Ana is one of those cities where
It's
it
one
could
of-
be gentrified.
It's getting-
Or I'm sure it is.
Currently,
I'm sure it is.
it's happening.
I'm sure it is because it's right in the middle of OC, and that place called Santa Ana existed because the rich restaurants and the rich nannies and all those people needed somebody to work for them,
Yeah, and somewhere to shop.
somewhere to shop, and who was going to clean up the mess,
And their debauchery, in the way it's built too, you could tell it's prohibition ready.
yeah.
There's little hidden passages. There's places to where the booze got smuggled in, where the help was entered to the back.
Yeah.
We're in a studio where it's really big and 4 or 5 entrances, and you could it's visible.
Yeah.
You have the front in the front, you have the access in the back, and then the parties in the middle.
Absolutely. Well, that to me, when I grew up there, I always just figured out that this is where poor people that worked for the rich people lived, and it was a very tiny, if you would call a city, it would be a studio apartment. It wasn't a huge place where you had it. My childhood adventures were to the supermarket, to the liquor store,
Maquinitas.
and to the other liquor store who had the other video game.
Yeah.
It's like,
Same here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might as well grown up together. It's the same thing. I be smacked around for coming home with some stale tortillas,
yeah.
And where's the change? And we already ate, and todos enojados. And I'm like, well, I passed the whole game with the
then
porter.
also too, though, I do want to agree that there are some very, very beautiful communal people. Without those people, that my mom, we share a house with this other family, very welcoming, very, so it has its good moments. Like I said, we take care of each other when things are so, stressful.
Todas las fiestas, that was always fun. Había ferias, Cinco de Mayo, Fiestas Patrias, that was always great. That you volunteer when you were a kid. Playing maquinitas, going up and down 4th Street during the day. At night, it was, it is what it is. Bike trail, los tianguis. like just being able to do things in the streets. I remember just running the streets as a kid.
That's my bin.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was
no.
my experience. I had a skateboard. I remember my mom was like begging my mom for a skateboard or a bike. And once I got those things, I was
Gone.
fucking gone, dude.
Yeah, and you know that helped too. Having a dad that tinkers too. He's just like me in his own way. Well, I'm like him, I guess. He tinker with stuff, mechanic, bikes. Like, so I was exposed visually, and I was always stimulated by taking things apart and putting them back together. So you learn how to do bikes, you learn how to do all this little stuff, and that was a real good like experience as well in Santa Ana. And
Which explains your technical musical
Yeah, I'm like
stuff. Because you're the engineer.
once I figured out computers and video games, I was really good at them as a kid.
That's what I really admire about your style. And I'm glad you kept going as an artist. You have your own solo stuff now as Illness. I seen you play at the show at Superman. Everything was banging.
Yeah, I was banging, right?
Your show was super hype.
Appreciate that, man.
And the video that we
really
showed
good.
we showed at the beginning of the show. I mean, it was pretty dope.
Dope show.
Who shot that one? Or
Rude at the House Productions.
okay,
Santa Ana native over there works without the house. Shout out to them, Droops and all them. It's dope, man. He really was like, I have a vision, man. I really see it. What do you think? And I really appreciate how excited he was and the little extra work he put in, getting props and stuff. Right. And it's funny how 2-3 little things made a huge difference in how that looked. We did it right at the back of the studio. I laid for the chalk. Like, it's these creative things and what really impressed me is how excited he was. It was a part of him, and I really enjoyed that. So it was pretty.
and it came out really, really pro. Like I liked it.
Rugged, yeah.
I like the song too because it's explaining the experience that you have with police brutality and
Yeah, that was written right
their
after. Well, I volunteered for a long time at El Centro Cultural de Mexico in Santa Ana. A lot of cool stuff. I had a studio there, so my whole point is to try to record a lot of people who don't normally have access to quality studio sessions. And we were doing it for a while, and we have a couple beers or all that. But when we were there, no one was drinking, and there was bottles laying around. Cops walked by, and as I'm freestyling, they were on their horses. They were trotting by across the street, and I'm rapping to the beat in the parking lot, to the stereo playing in the car. And I say, on this land of occupying forces, and get those animals off those horses. And they hear me. You literally hear the and it cluck, 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 cluck.
you put it in reverse.
And they come back, and they're like, what are you guys doing here? And they look on the ground, and there's beers, but from all the people walk by, whatever it might be. I mean, I had drank, but I didn't have anything, right? Mm-hmm. Boom, instantly, ID everybody. I'm over here. Oh, crap. My friends are undocumented. You guys working with ICE this year. What am I supposed to do? And I was already livid, so was my friend. She got the worst end of it. Had a huge argument with the cops, and once it all happened, they grabbed me and her, and my friends got away. And at that moment, I wasn't thinking, oh, shit, what should I do to help my friends? I was just thinking, hell no, you ain't IDing us. You're walking into our property. Get out. No one called you. No one wants to talk to you. They didn't like that very much, and got arrested, got beat up a little bit. The whole I can't breathe. I said it out loud because I couldn't, And I got lucky I didn't get shot, actually, because it's one of the surfer thing. But I was going into the studio, and the studio lock somehow was messing up, and it's turned a little bit. So you take it, it's an extra moment to, and as soon as I did that, I heard him behind me, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do this, because if I do this, he's gonna break in here too, and grab me, and now I'm inside the place. Now it becomes a whole bigger deal, right?
Oh wow!
Right? So I'm like, okay, I turn around. I'm sorry, right before I turned around to do that with the key, I reached. Don't reach! But I was reaching for my keys.
Oh wow!
And I was like, whoa. Take it easy, forget about it, And it was an intense situation. Spent the night in jail. It was one of those arrests where they're just intimidating arrest. A caveat.
Did they charge you with anything?
Yeah, charged me for resisting arrest. Actually, it was my first charge.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. Public
not breaking
intoxication. Public intoxication. I demanded a blood test or something. They didn't want to give me a breathalyzer or nothing. And also something public. I don't know. It's like when you're just being rowdy in public. I don't know what the hell the charge was. Screw them. Funniest thing in there, me and the homegirl were demanding, mostly her, but I was like, yeah. No, we definitely wanted to make sure, like, hey, well, let's do it. I want your evidence to be open to me when I take your asses to court. And they didn't want to do it. They want to do it. And then they're trying to fingerprint us. My homegirl's being difficult for them, of course, right? Like, nah, hey, be careful. She's the coworker on the police department. She was telling her coworker, right? They're talking amongst each other. Loud enough and says, Hey, be careful. She knows her rights. I was like, interesting. That's when I knew. No matter what the fuck we say, we're gonna spend the night here. They'll let us in. They'll let us out.
Well, that story.
And then I wrote it in my head as I was in there, and I got out. Immediately started thinking about what to say.
That's an intense experience. I mean, I haven't felt that since the early '90s here in East Los Angeles, where that experience.
Yeah,
you know, it's still very hard, but I'm glad you brought it up because when they ask me about how to change things, you can't change colonial perspective. In other words, you're guilty just because they want you to be guilty. And whether you're guilty or not, you're going to spend an experience, a traumatic experience, like being put in a cage and told you don't have any rights, or played with the fact that you're saying, well, she knows her rights, is kind of making fun of you. Because if you did, then you wouldn't be in this situation.
Or manipulating the little power they know they have in ways where.
Absolutely. I've already said this on the podcast that I feel, and this is just my opinion, that police officers, military officers, anybody with a uniform is a higher class of citizen. Everyone else is less because you don't wear this uniform. You don't represent any organization, right? It kind of reminded me of sometimes when when we talk about these things and we say they. I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
They, and there's there's no they. There is a they. I'm gonna show you the they. I'm gonna do a video very soon too.
They is a
as
lot
we
of
get
people.
into the Patreon stuff and start breaking down on a very different level, right? But if you ever gone into a city and seen on like some poles, there are these plaques.
Adopt the highways.
No. I'm talking about like there's these like plaques of organization. It'll say Shriners.
I got you. Yes,
It'll say
Even Masons.
a Mason one.
Local, whatever.
Yeah, but they're not very big. They're not big billboards. They're kind of like these really 8, maybe 10 inches plaques that represent certain organizations. As you go into each city, you'll see what plaques and what organizations live in that city. That is the they. That's they. Because they see you walking from your school to your house. They talk to the captain of the police.
Yeah.
They're organizations that let themselves be known because they have to. Just like a predator in the jungle will let you know. So they exist.
Well, they let you know right before.
So whoever, so we want to know who is pushing the boot on the throat and creating experiences like you just. There's a they. There.
Yeah, those are the people that push back when you hear the majority of the population asking, begging, demanding for something that they need, rent control, just things about gentrification, just. Anything that even like in the national level, healthcare, like all these things that that are attainable, and there is the money, but they don't want you to have it. Don't need you to. They suffer.
And what I'm trying to break down is they is not in the Bill Gates seat.
No,
it's more like on the city council seat, right? From that point on, it goes a little higher, and then it goes a little higher, then it goes a little higher, then it goes to the Senate, then it goes
the Congress, and then
it goes
Cabinet.
up the ladder.
Yeah.
But there is a they, and the they
And
is
they
those
sometimes-
little plaques when you go into a city. They're there. Those organizations have members. Those members own businesses or has investments in that neighborhood, in that piece of land. There is a they, and it's very clear who that is.
sometimes
If we're not educated on it, we'll say, oh, look at the conspiracy of Bill Gates, and Bill Gates is calling the shots. But he doesn't have any power without the they. You understand? If he doesn't control the small people, how can he control the whole shit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's very direct people that you can really put a complaint on because they're these small businesses compared to the big corporations that fall in line. That's how we're getting into these big messes and stuff. And that's how you get police
They know who the enemy is. Yeah.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
these businesses will go, these private businesses, they have plaques in front of the cities that you go into. They have meetings every month and they discuss, we need this property over here. We need this apartment building over here. We need it. So we need to get, and that's where gang injunctions are born. That's where things start to get, so there is a they. And the they is those little plaques before you go into that fucking city and you see it and it says Masonic Lodge, da-da-da-da, or it says so-and-so. Find out who goes to that lodge. That is the they.
And then they don't even know that they're being the they. And they have their own they.
Right.
And
It's
then
crazy.
that psychological magician's trick is what keeps us, in circles.
Well, I'm glad that you say that.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's where I wanted to kind of have your opinion, right? And Armando's opinion about this Kanye West interview, right? Not as a relevant thing towards our people or ILLNES, but I wanted to point out a thing that I saw in the interview that were very key to me. Two things that were just super subtle, super quick, but he went on with his influence. Let's give it to him. He's an influencer. He does.
He doesn't influence me for shit. But I might not even know that he did.
Right, but whether he did you or me, it didn't matter. He just influences people. But that's not all seeing, all knowing.
Gotcha.
It's just a popular person.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is that he might have influenced us without even us knowing.
Exactly.
That's what makes it so impactful and so dense.
So he goes on this podcast show. I don't know what it's called. Drunks. What is it called?
Drink Champs.
Yeah, it would have a dumbass name like that. Drink Champs. Yeah.
It's a garbage ass show, by
But-
the way. Shout out
So
to Nice
he
Prince.
goes on this fucking thing, right? And he throws two things very subtle. He's all, I don't own a home. My home is this backpack. I don't own material things. Well, hello, motherfucker. That's the new agenda. Get everybody off of ownership. But he does it very subtly. And he's so influential that he feels like he's exposing these elites, right? But if he's exposing these elites, why the fuck is he having dinner with them? Why is he begging money from them? Why is he trying to be one of them? Right? He said on that interview, Jeff Bezos is my peer. Right? He said, so-and-so is my peer.
They're looking at him like,
And he's probably right. He probably can have lunch with Jeff Bezos and call a meeting with somebody. But my point is, he's very subtly taking you down that rabbit hole of this new agenda where you don't own a house, you don't own a car, and you depend on, what did they call it?
universal basic income.
The universal basic income. Because he said he was going to put himself on the stock market and become a public traded commodity to hit 1 trillion to guarantee money to people. Because no one should be poor. But that's a very subtle
Sounds so beautiful.
push
Yeah, but it's,
towards this new agenda. Right? Where they're stripping our rights away. They're stripping our ability to have a business away. It's very subtle, but yet he goes on this fucking show and acts like a king and says, I'm for you guys. I'm with you guys. But no one, and I'm not really biblical, but from what I heard of the devil, he's like right there with you, right?
Yeah.
Like Kanye saying, like, yeah, look, I'm going to exploit this guy,
my buddy.
right? I just wanted to point out those things. Probably the chat has, a response to that, but
Oh yeah, I just noticed that. Javier Hernandez, Mr. Lopez.
But
Okay,
those subtle things that happen. So when we talk about the situation that we're in, which is very serious and very divisive, it's driven by one thing: celebrity. I was talking to you earlier about it.
And I said this one term. I've read up on some stuff, but the stages of empires, and we're way past the due date. But I'm thinking because there's new technology, it can last a little longer. But we're in the age of decadence. This is where you celebritize everything, even your chefs. Everything's worth. You control how much things are, like diamonds, for example. Like, you know how many diamonds exist It shouldn't cost so much, right? All these lies and like these like ultra mind manipulating advertisements and colors and studying how the brain, like this is like on a whole new level of manipulation, right? But again, you say it's subtle.
It's
I don't know
very subtle.
but I
It's
drive
very
by a certain restaurant fast food. I'm like, hey, I want a burger. Why? You know, why don't I go buy a plant and go, ooh, I want that carrot, or give me that potato?
Right.
Like, why can't I see a plant and feel that? I know it's partly me, obviously, right? But I don't know, man. This is something that's been happening since before I was born. I was born into it, so it's hard for me to like. Why does food that's supposed to be good taste bland? Why does the natural thing from the earth taste bland when I've seen things that taste so? And I'm like, and then I taste the stuff that's I guess given the okay, GMO fruits and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh my god, this is how it's supposed to taste.
Well, see,
right?
and it's like that's where you're going back.
And then
you're going back to what I'm saying.
Has that ever hurt your saliva glands when you plant to something sweet or something way too much flavor?
No,
I know that this tightens up your glands and your saliva, right? Because it's the acidity or whatever it might be. But I know that if that happens, that food has too much flavor. Doritos and things like that, or big old sour candies,
of the gland.
because it's like it's telling you, oh, and it's hurting you, almost telling you don't eat this.
Right.
But once you get past that, like you start.
And that's what I love about the way Kanye says things. Right.
So subtle.
It's super subtle. It's super subtle, yet it's still along the lines of the new agenda. Like he's one of them. He's probably in the meetings with them going, I can convince them, watch, look. And look, I'm God. Look, I could do this, and I'm gonna say this, and you're gonna believe it, and because I'm so dope, I'm so fresh. And he just kept referring to the new religion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The new religion, which is ego, which is, like you were saying, celebritizing everything. Determine people's worth by how many people listen to him, right? How many followers does he have?
Yeah.
Right? What influence does he have?
What's the number? What's the exposure number?
Right. So, I don't know. I thought it was very important for me to kind of point out those two things because sometimes we'll look at an interview. Oh, that was a great interview, man. That guy was breaking it down. Look how much knowledge he was sharing with us. What was he sharing? He was just sharing his private moments with rich people.
Yeah.
Extraordinary rich people. And then going and putting himself in that. Now, that leads me to who I think he really kind of reminds me of. And this is something that I can't prove, but it reminded me of Mozart.
How so?
Because I have read in some instances that Mozart was black. He was a prodigy black kid.
Interesting.
And the elites...
Blasphemy!
And the elites would take him to different...
Show him off
and get him bigger. And they ultimately destroyed him. Right? Because his talent and his... we don't know the true stories because he happened in the 1700s. And so what could it...
They got to go Allan Poe, like someone... after a certain amount of years, like he can't really track it down.
Yeah,
because,
and have the accuracy.
They got to put just a name on something that he didn't do at all.
But they definitely took Mozart into being this, again, driven by white supremacy. Like they took Jesus and they made him white.
It wouldn't surprise me if he was black.
Right.
Even in the pictures, he has that curly hair. Like
apparently, he died in an unmarked grave. Right. They killed him, and he died, and they just buried him, and they don't know where he's at. Right. But think about now. Let's think about Kanye. Right. Now he's kind of this fucking musical genius that gets to go into any fucking room. If he wanted to go see the Pope, he could.
Well, he compares himself to Moses.
Right, the religious figure.
Yeah.
But he's more like Mozart, not Moses. He's a key to the city, to every political, business, whatever, because of his prodigy, right? His genius, right? But subtly pushing this agenda. Very subtly, right? I don't own a home. Only the home is whack. This is my home. This little bag right here, right? So that 20 years from now...
What an asshole. I've been doing that shit since the 90s.
Well, sometimes you're forced to do that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, yeah.
But he was saying that, he's in this... I just really paid attention to what he was trying to push. Because you have to read between the lines when people push you something, right? And that was a very standoff thing. I don't own a house. Whoa, new
Yeah, you
agenda.
do, goddamn.
No, new agenda. Maybe he does, but that's what he was trying to push off as the new cool.
Says the guy that has his golden parachute, right?
Right. And no,
Come on.
plus he's very, extravagant. I'm not saying that he isn't, but what I'm trying to say is that he's planting seeds in young people.
Yeah.
25 years from now, no one's going to know that he owned houses, and they're going to go, oh, wow, look at what he was saying. They're going to take his word
But
verbatim.
I do give Kanye credit that he did come from absolutely nothing. From what I know for a fact, when it comes to the hip hop game, he used to open up for Percy P.
Yeah. Trip out. These will be, according to many different interviews and such media, say that he'd always try to rap to the point where the people are like, oh, God, here he comes.
Right.
He's gonna rap. He's gonna want to rap again.
Sway used to tell a story on his radio station how Kanye used to always run up to him at the railroad station and just like demand Sway to listen to his mixtape, and Sway like never took him serious. So that was like he did come from the underground scene, but now he's just turned into a cyborg.
Well, I mean, I think he's definitely a musical genius in my opinion.
You should get a dose of illness.
He's a really good producer. He knows how to construct songs. I mean, he knows, and when we're talking about industry stuff, right? The industry,
What
how
did
to
Kanye
do a business deal or whatever the fuck. But his influence, in my opinion, kind of all that interview. If you rewatch that interview, you will see the new agenda, right? The new agenda, celebrity-driven fear.
And he leads the way.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm talking about is that he's talking about God. I'm God and Jesus, and then he calls his two friends a goat. A goat? Wait a minute. A goat? What does goat represent? It's the new version of God, right? But satanic goat,
Greatest of all time, right? The GOAT.
right?
And the goat's the idol?
How did, like, if someone ever said, Zero, you're the goat, I'd be like, dude, what the fuck are you thinking about? Like, I ain't no fucking Satanist. I'm not into my own ego. What are you talking about?
You know,
Like, it's very subtle. Do you see how?
Well, it's a metaphor for greatest of all times.
But it's also very explicit
Well, that's it, but
that it's
yeah.
a symbol of.
It's a
I
goat.
just think there's too much power in Kanye, and is it a coincidence that he's married
Okay.
to a lady that's married to Travis Scott, who just murdered 8 kids in Houston?
That's the other thing I want to talk about. But let me get
You
back
have
to
no power over me.
GOAT. Here's why I'm going to tell you GOAT means a certain thing. It still means the same thing as it always felt, like it's a Luciferian symbol. But back in the days, in 1928, there was Jewish rich men, or I don't know if they're Jewish, but they were white men, sitting around figuring out a way to make black people call themselves nigga in a positive way. They sat in a private club and they smoked cigarettes, and they were like, who can we get to make nigga a popular word? And so they tried to get jazz people. They tried to get these other people. And they're like, what are you talking about? That's a negative word towards our people. Fast forward to NWA and Tupac. That agreement of white men trying to make that word popular still kept alive, right? Now you get into this time where it's cool to call each other that. Now you get cemented in that private club as a person.
That's why everyone's saying savage now.
Well, I don't know.
Everyone's saying savage. This savage, that savage, this, and all that.
That was a breakdown of. Oh man, I forgot.
No, I know what you're talking about. I've heard something similar. Yeah, and it seemed like a huge push. Okay. Let me tell you this.
But I'm
In
talking
80s
about the subtleness of
Yes,
it.
yes.
The subtleness of how they make it cool for you to be poor.
Yeah,
Cool for
Yeah.
you to be a gangster.
right there,
Cool for you to be a nigga.
right there.
Right now, the most coolest, the fact that you don't say that to someone is kind of like, he's old, right? But there's a group of people that make these subtle suggestions. Just remember that the English language is how to write words is called spelling. What kind of spelling are we doing to each other? is what I want to bring aware, and how subtle it is, and how Kanye did it on the biggest of fucking podcasts. Like, he was very subtle about it. I'm God, but those are my goats. That's a reference to Luciferianism. His whole attitude is Luciferianism. I'm so dope. I'm really dope. No one better than me. That's Luciferianism. Not Satanism, Luciferianism. Very different. These are subtle agendas that I feel we need to be aware of. Not that it's the great kukui, but let them individuals know that we come from a place that's far beyond that bullshit. We come from time. We are the great grandchildren of the abuelos who figured out time. Far more different than being the GOAT. Far more different than being whatever the fuck he was trying to put on that podcast. Yet, he was a rebel. He was a Bob Marley, he said. He said he compared himself to Bob Marley.
Maybe to some younger.
But Bob Marley fucking awoken the black community to being African. That's a big fucking shoe to fill. And you putting yourself on a publicly traded platform on Wall Street to create $1 trillion so you can give back a universal income? That sounds like your friends, brother. That sounds like your fucking meeting friends, all your elites, all your Gap people, all your motherfucking...
Well, he did.
All those people that he kept mentioning.
Well, in that interview, he did mention that he's wearing the red hat now. He put back the red hat, which is the Make America Great Again hat, the Trumper hat, whatever.
Well,
I think that's...
I don't... I'm just trying to say the subtlety and the influence through his music, through his art, through his church, who he's putting on, right? Who is he putting on? Kid Cudi.
Hey, he asked me to go
Kid
on.
Cudi wore a dress on SNL.
I'd go
Kid Cudi wore a dress on SNL.
Savage.
Kid Cudi got a fucking brand new Prime documentary. Where I don't know, it's on Prime, I think.
You're absolutely right. He is the one that signed and put on Kid
Cudi.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, bro. This is all very subtly done, right? Wearing a dress is a big deal. Wearing a dress in public is a big deal in the Masonic world. Wearing a dress in public is a big deal in the Masonic world. These are things that back in the day you would be called crazy. Oh, you're crazy for knowing. No, this is now your reality. Because now people reference the goat. But the goat is a Luciferian symbol. And we got to call it out. Not that I'm all Jesus Christ or anti-anything.
I eat birria, so I don't trip too much. Bury that sucker.
But
Nah,
you know,
it's real.
I just have to, I have to say my piece on pop culture because I don't want my 5-year-old kid to be 20 years old in 10 years from now and be like the GOAT. You know, I got to school you now.
If you school them now and you keep them from I mean, you can't lock someone out of the world, right? But people look at it strange when you don't allow, when you mention, I don't know, like someone in the youth not paying attention to this stuff.
Well,
ignore it, don't have access to it. It seems like it's so normal for a kid to have an iPad now with full access to everything on the internet.
I think what I've seen in my family is I never stopped it. And my kids into that, let them be into it. But I contrast it with truth.
Yeah.
And what is the truth? Well, one time, me and my partner were arguing, right? This is the truth. This is how I contrast all their bullshit, all the goat, all that shit. I take my son to the lodge. In the lodge, he hears the sweat leader say, never get home, never go to bed angry, right? Fast forward 10 years, from that moment. And he sees me and my partner have a little disagreement. And he tells me, Dad, never go to bed angry. That, to me, is how we contrast this bullshit stuff. You got to be real with your kids, and maybe you don't have access to the sweat lodge, but have a good conversation with them. Look into their eyes and tell them you love them from the bottom of your heart, and that
I love doing that with my family.
They mean everything to you. That's how you contrast this ego thing, this whole thing that I just saw. Now, look, I'm not trying to piss on Kanye.
I am.
Right.
Whatever. Piss on anyone that
But
sucks.
I am trying to point out things that
100%.
these motherfuckers think they're so slick that no one sees it. That's what I want to. That I challenge that.
Kanye's one of the worst. Him, Drake, Travis Scott. Who else is
I
on
mean,
that?
if you don't know it's funny because you're not into that whole, but I'm sure I can get a couple of people that I know that are much younger to name off a few artists that are popular right now. And my name of Trash, great production, Trash.
Yeah.
You know, your producer, and I'm talking about your beat maker, whoever produces the records, you know, and does all the editing and all that magic is a genius. I want to give that guy my money.
Yeah.
But like some artists are just trash, and it goes because the message, what they're conveying, what value do they carry to the people that are benefiting from such an artist, right? And those are, besides the people that are monetarily gaining and investors and whatever corporations, it's also they're pushing this agenda, and they may not even know that they're part of this agenda being pushed. They're just
Here's
artists.
another
They're just there.
another subtle thing that he did in that interview.
But look, Zero, you peel back the orange, and what's the foundation? It's hip hop,
Hip-hop.
bro.
Yeah.
Hip hop.
Well, that tells you how far
Original
hip hop
Savage.
influence is. It's a huge influence because even with verses
came from
and
creator.
they're you know them battling each other, it's
Big Daddy
reinvent.
Kane,
It's
Karis one.
Yeah, it's that, and then Jadakiss and the Diplomats, and it's starting up. I'm sure they're gonna have hundreds of other ones.
And this is why this podcast is so vital, because we're trying to tackle that sector, but you know, in an indigenous way.
Well, we want to bring reality back because we got to get back to time sequence, time understanding. You know, we just had our grand opening on a very important day, according to Masatzin, right? According to Masatzin, we had our grand opening on the first day of the 260-day calendar. And I wish he was here to break it down, and we'll definitely have more time with him and as we grow into the Patreon. But I want to give my opinion about what he said that day. And I want everyone to kind of grasp that. He said, today is one Sipakli. 260 days from now will be 9 months and a completion of another cycle of 260 days. The gestation of a human. What are you going to plant? And what are you going to check on 260 days from now? Those are powerful cycles that get you out of the ego and put you back into the sequence of time. Sacred time. Time that is connected to each one of your heartbeats. So I've been keeping track of these days. And I'm 260 days from now, I want to have something born. I want to have an idea born. We need to be in those time sequences to combat all this foolishness. Because when we go back into the energies of time, then we can confront white supremacy and very, how can I say this, fickle ideologies, right? Because if you base your ideology on ego, you have a long way down. It's not there yet for this brother, you know, but rely on your community, rely on your family. And he did, I liked that part of that interview where he talked about taking care of his family and, you know, being very close to his family. That's important, but try not to do it by throwing the rest of the people like into the fire with your new agenda shit, right? And saying that you're for the people and that I want to stop abortion and fucking all this
It's
other.
funny because he's being influential, but I rarely hear anything about. This is the most I've heard about Kanye, you know, ever. Like in any like I see a thing or you know somebody does a video. I'm like, yeah, I don't really pay attention. I choose not to click, right? But the way you're breaking it down, it's like, yeah, no.
I mean,
He went from George Bush hates black people to make America great again, and that's a
Watch
it's a huge transformation.
Ernest is gonna wake up in the morning and check out all of his new interviews.
Well, I mean, it's just
You planted a seed.
no. Well, it's just I'm pointing it out
I feel you.
because it's a new agenda, and it's not only him that's doing it. Everyone does it in their own way. Here's another way that a celebrity does it. When Matthew McConaughey fucking interviews Anthony Fauci. Celebrity-driven fear.
Or Sean Penn with Chapo.
Right? But that right there, that was a big one for me. McConaughey and Fauci?
I didn't even know that happened.
And McConaughey's all fucking, well, I seen it very briefly because I'm paying attention to what the fucking rights that are being stripped away from us. I'm paying attention because they're stripping rights away like crazy.
Yeah, most
little by little.
Buying
Right?
up all
And
the
it's
water.
very subtle. It's very subtle. And how do we combat this?
Hip-hop.
What are we gonna do? Through music, yes, we proliferate a message. But I believe that when we come back to ancient wisdoms and rhythms and connections and creating that solid community, then sovereignty plays a role. And at one point in this drama, sovereignty is going to play a role. It has to, because no one can just declare tyranny and fascism like they did in the 30s and 40s. There's going to be a different, because, you know, there's underbellies of things, right? There's like, kind of, if you think of the city of Los Angeles, there's business owners, but those business owners have crime connections. They're not just like regular business owners, and they want to see their businesses thrive. And I just don't see them catching the criminal element of this dysfunction, right? And that's where their contrast and their clashes are. Along with other people that just really don't agree with the new agenda of stripping your rights, you have no ownership, and you're going to get a universal income that's going to shrink, and then supply shrink, and then boom, the chaos happens. This is all designed. This is not something that we should ignore at all. We should be very on top of this. And when you have quote unquote influential people, which they are because that shit was everywhere, you know, that's why I'm talking about it. When I see it everywhere, it's like seeing a popular TV show or something happen on the news that you have to look at. Well, that's the way they use social media now. Because think about it. Who popped off this whole bullshit? It was a celebrity that popped this off. It had to be a celebrity. Somebody that had millions and millions of followers that
Tom
when
Hanks.
she turned on...
Tom Hanks, I agree. Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks did it.
It was celebrity
And then
driven.
Cardi B did the music, the soundtrack to it. And then there was a few other ones.
Well, it was a viral thing, you know. But think about it. If you have a person that can turn on their phone and all of a sudden, you know, 100,000 people are clicking in, right? And she's hyping it up. Oh, coronavirus, it's getting real. And then boom, the shit goes viral. And then all of a sudden, and then you got the media going, now we're going to lock down. And now we're going to... Celebrity-driven fear, brothers and sisters. That's what I'm talking about being aware of. Stripping your rights through fear, through actors. People are getting paid to say these things. It's not a fucking, it's not brain surgery to figure that out, right? Now it's going to switch into get your vaccine. You know, I'm a celebrity guy and I got my vaccine and I'm doing great. This is 90 days and I'm blah, blah, blah. But now I'm on my 5th shot. My 5th shot is even better.
Get ready for those boosters.
It's like, fuck, dude. You're going to have to walk around like a fucking infant.
LA Times just announced that apparently they've been doing some studies that the 2 shots are not as effective as they thought. So that's obviously a sign that they're rolling out those boosters, baby.
That's incredibly... Dude, it's like it reminds me of my kid's fucking infant. You know, back in the day, I wasn't aware of vaccines, but, you know, or mine. Shit, my mom showed me mine and fucking 900,000 vaccines on that shit. And you walk around like a grown adult fucking going, look, I got my fucking shot.
And now they're saying...
I'm not trying to, you know, disrespect anybody who has got it or who feels like they need it. That's your decision, but
Oh, well.
it's like,
Just kidding.
but for me, it's like you have to be very aware of agendas.
I'm against it. I'm for
and
it.
subtle agendas, and there's fascism that's out there, and that's where we're going.
So illness.
Yo.
I'm not American enough. I'm not Mexican enough. I'm not indigenous enough. I can't afford to look it up, bro. When I saw
Mexican haiku.
bro, that made my day, bro. Can you go ahead and break that down? Like, what does that all stem from?
Yeah, the cool segue, by the way. Yeah, and that connects to being savage too, by the way. I'm American, right? I'm born in this country. So according to natural law or whatever law that exists in this territory, this property.
So let me be clear. We live under the rule of law.
Yeah, the rule of law.
That's the rule of law.
Natural laws. Right, so the rule of law says that I am a citizen of this nation and I'm entitled. I haven't felt entitled to. I'm entitled to a lot of things, inalienable rights. I haven't felt that way for many, many situations. I felt less valuable, even places that I can't access, that are accessible to anyone born on this land. So American, I felt many times I'm not American enough. Maybe because I'm not white, maybe because I'm not rich, maybe because I'm not whatever it might be. Influential, I don't know. And then I'm not Mexican enough because since I was born here, I was raised here, and my cultural identity is from Mexico. Shout out to Guadalajara. I'm not Mexican enough because mi gente de la tierra de allá looks at me differently. No pocho.
You don't have to be born in Mexico to be to not be Mexican. Like,
Yeah, right.
I was born in Guatemala, and I don't consider myself Guatemala. I mean, like when I go over there, they don't see me as a Guatemalan. You know.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. You know.
So you're just like a alien from outer space, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, and that's why when he said, I mean, like I identify with that. You know, like.
Yeah, and then I've even been a perpetrator of that very pinche pocho. Look at that pocho over there. Oh, look at that pinche indio here, right? Like, and it's weird because you grow up, these things become natural. It's what it is, right? So I'm not American enough. I'm not Mexican enough. And then discovering that my ancestry and I know I'm connected to this land thousands of years ago.
Indigenously.
As an indigenous person, I'm not indigenous enough for certain communities, or maybe the name Salvajes was not good, or, well, how can you be indigenous? What tribe are you from? I don't know, And to get to the last part, to really sum up like the effect of this trauma of not being able to identify concretely with any one of these three demographics is that I can't afford to look it up. Okay, you got to look it up from, I don't know, Ancestry.com. Who are these people that own the knowledge of my ancestry? Who are these people that own and have control over information that should be given freely to everybody to know where they came from? Obviously, there's so many reasons why and how the oppression continues, but I can't afford it.
Zero, that's a quick question.
I can't.
Who runs Ancestry? You know what? My big
How do
brother
you have knowledge of my people?
got his reading, bro, and I'm like, yo, I'm not going to pay $100 for a bullshit ass reading.
I don't know, man. It's this marketing, man. Like they sell you a
You
product. They sell
commodified
you a product.
ancient knowledge. Like this is.
No, it's not. It's not necessary. But we automatically believe that they swiped 8 billion people on this fucking planet, and then they stored it properly, and now it has its own little database or some shit.
Yeah.
That's just a fucking scam, man. In my opinion, it's a fucking scam,
Yeah.
dude. They're taking your feria, especially if it's fucking over $100. Is it over $100?
I have no idea. I
think
can't afford
so.
it.
Yeah, it's like 125 or
There
for
you
a
go.
full reading.
There you go. See, now everybody on the planet's gonna go fucking swipe their thing, and they're gonna go, let's see who we're gonna fucking.
And then they
tell him.
store your
There's,
DNA.
there's like white people saying they're indigenous.
Oh no!
because of that
Hold on.
ancestry.
I'm 1/16 Apache. That's
look,
what I hear
guys.
often, and I find that offensive.
I always go back to my prime examples of what we're living in. We're living in a situation that's trying to mimic kings and queens, right?
Oligarchy.
Kings and queens, people who would look at a village and see it thriving, and then go oppress that village and take what that village is, and all of a sudden they're that village, right? If there was a doctor there who was curing people, all of a sudden he got gulped up, and then his ideas and got mastered, and all of a sudden now the king knows how to do it.
Yep, Apple.
Right.
That's most tech companies right now.
So I feel like they run under this monarch system, right? But they just call it different things, like corporations,
Corporate
S-corps.
oligarchy, corporatocracies, and there's like 10 different ways that it's ran.
Right.
But it's all under one umbrella.
But it all has the same philosophy,
Yeah.
right? One head, a board, all these things.
Profit driven.
all these things that are basic.
compartmentalized.
But you know,
It's compartments.
when you put out the statement, you know, I'm not American enough, I'm not Mexican enough, I'm not indigenous enough, I can't afford to look it up, bro. You were just like, that's me, that's Zero, that's Illness.
But let me get back to
DJ Warlock 1.
Let me get back to
and guys, if there's anyone watching this, do you feel the same way? Chime in, leave the comments.
So let me get back to what I was saying about the oligarchies is that when they have enough money and if they're in this monarch system, they're just going to go buy it because they have the resources and appropriate it and make it theirs. And all of a sudden erase who was there. And then they, kind of like Nikola Tesla, right? They bought all his patents.
Destroyed it.
Right? And now fucking Elon Musk is taking fucking credit for all of the work that fucking Tesla did. Right? Because he has a Rolodex.
Thomas Edison took.
He has a Rolodex of fucking Tesla's genius.
And Tesla died broke and like outcasted from the whole society.
That's what I'm trying to point out is that it's a monarch system where they come, they extract, take, and then all of a sudden it's them that did it. And that's not the fucking truth.
That's how they gain wealth. The wealth gain, slave trade, like the sugar cane. Then the patent office came, took my inventions away. You know, like, okay, what's the greatest invention of the oppressor is the patent office. So now I first to sign the paper. I came up with the idea legally, right? All the way down to, I was mentioning Apple. One of the companies that first did anything you come up with under our hours, under our, you know, you're working for us, our equipment, those ideas belong to us, right? You come up with something and you try to someone else, we'll bury you, you know, like.
So then that reminds me
all your wealth.
That reminds me pretty much. It gives me a kind of segue to what I'm going to say is that, you know, these monarchs, they just see talent or see something. It's kind of like the movies, you know. They took the native from us and they made it this tough guy who is a warrior. And what about the humble native? What about the connected native? What about the native like Wavanka? What about the natives like
female, the dual spirited?
Right. The females that had medicine and all that stuff. But we took Hollywood's word for it. And it's all a monarch system. It's all just based on resource and wealth. And the rich people, you know, Armando, that you know how concerts started? Concerts started by a rich person knowing a musician and inviting him to his house. And he would only invite his friends. And they would watch this private performance. And then they got wise and said, well, fuck, I could charge this motherfucker for sitting in my house watching this guy. And that's how concerts are born. Right? Rich people take talent, buy it, own it, and now it's theirs, even though
there's a human there.
That's why you know it's like where we back in the days where we grew up, Warlock, where we're like, we're not gonna sign a deal. No one's gonna own me, right? That's exactly what monarchs do, is that they own people. So not for 1 minute is Kanye not owned by somebody. Somebody's signing a check to somebody. He's not that independent that he claims to be. But that's who owns Ancestry.com. They could tell you whatever the fuck they want. They own it.
Bro, my older brother
what are
is
you gonna
so
do?
Convinced.
Are you gonna become a genealogist and go, well, wait, your fucking DNA is off right here. You know, it's like you don't know how to
according to Ancestry.com, I'll be honest, I took the swab. They said that I'm from Norwegia.
And this was based off a swap?
That's my mother's side. My dad's side is Antarctica. I'm just kidding, bro. Like I'm just saying all that to be silly because like you don't know.
Yeah.
They could tell you anything. They could, you know, and I'm sure there's a transparent method to it, and people who are smart enough in that realm can say, oh, actually, this is legit. You still don't know. They could have fudged some things up, and then ever since that one scare from 2010, everything's been 30% off.
Dude, I remember
you don't know.
I remember the first commercials of Ancestry.com. They show a woman. This is how the media works. This is how people manipulate you. This is how Hollywood manipulates you, right? All they have to do is get a white woman to have a little vial and walk in an African village and swipe somebody. That's the commercial, right? She walks into the village and she's swiping it, putting it in the thing and storing it. And we have collected all the people on the planet. Ancestry.com, $120, find out who you are, right? Miss me with that bullshit.
That's crazy that you're taking something so valuable, even though it seems so innocent,
And making it through
Yours
science,
belongs-
but no proof
Holding
that
it
this is the
hostage.
way it is.
holding that knowledge
It's a,
hostage,
it's
bro.
a, to me,
It's a ransom thing.
now to me, look, you can call me crazy, call me whatever you want, but
Crazy,
I'm
crazy.
not, that's a TV dinner for me. Like they convinced people that TV dinners were bomb until you
were.
actually fucking cooked the TV dinner and had to fucking eat it.
What's the term?
Right?
It's true.
So ancestry.com, anybody fucking shows me that, like Iron Jacket or anybody, it's like a TV dinner.
Well, do you
You know what I mean?
do you believe in genetics? Because they kind of they fall under that umbrella. They use the term genetics all the time on ancestry.com. Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think that we're in the age of scientific narcissism where no one's educated enough to, from, elementary to college in those things to even challenge it. That's what I'm saying. Rockefeller, Carnegie, and all these motherfuckers created universities, hired people to say, this is the truth, and we all fucking fell for it. No one questioned them.
I would have, but I wasn't alive.
They're
My ancestors
all
didn't have a
credited
chance to.
because they have fancy names like
Yeah.
endowment.
And they got money and
right?
resources.
Do you know what endowment means?
No.
No, neither do I.
Is it a
See? But it's an endowment to this university. In other
cluster
words,
of money from
on
different
on that fucking check it says endowment.
Yeah, it's a bunch of different.
I'm gonna look it up.
money.
If someone in the chat could look it up, what endowment means?
It's a fund, I believe, from many multiple people, agencies, entities that put in a bunch of money, and it's like one big.
Okay,
and
so-
then you get the money from the National Endowment of the Arts or the Endowment of the Welding or the, it's all these, like,
So what you're telling me that an endowment is
bunch of slush.
old white men
Yeah.
who smoke cigars trying to manipulate society
Yeah.
with educated people who they're paying to write a paper to say that this is truth. That's why I can't believe in those genetics or sciences or anything brought upon through white supremacy, right? Because them people in that room, I guarantee you were all white men smoking cigarettes, trying to manipulate, or what they call social engineering. But we're savage.
Yeah.
We're wild. And that's how we squirm our way through this society. Because we're wild. We don't conform to their so-called brilliance. Their so-called brilliance is by keeping people dumb. That's their brilliance. Oh, look how dumb they are.
Yep.
Right? But that's not brilliant. That's lazy. That's so lazy. And you're arrogant about it. Well, that's where I'm here to challenge through truth. My ancestors left truth. They made the Tonal Mashiach. They taught us of the 260-day calendar. If we can use those energies in our daily life and understand how to implement those sacred commitments. DJ Warlock One, let me ask you a question. If you planted a seed on November 7th and that seed was, I'm going to make an album, in 9 months, what kind of an album are you going to have?
Illness featuring everybody. Sorry.
A classic?
There you go, right? Because it's a baby, and you're going to dedicate 260 days to it, and you're going to come out with a classic. That means you're going to review. That means you're going to go through all the energies of that calendar.
Yeah, it has to go through different stages.
Absolutely.
I'm not just gonna like microwave my way through,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's a great example of how we shouldn't take our life. We should make commitments of 260 days. We should make commitments that are 100 years from now. That's the kind of commitments that our ancestors gave. They said 1,000 years from now, our great-grandchildren will see this. That's a long way to throw a stone, right? And now we're talking about it. It's been a part of my life for 25 years. And I had no elder to sit down and break anything down. I went and I found them. I went to the ceremonies. So I do know what it feels like to not be American enough, Chicano enough,
Mexican enough.
Mexican enough, native enough. When I went to the reservations, they were like, "Oh, that's the pretend native. He thinks
Native pocho.
he's native." I was the native pocho.
Oh,
Yeah,
damn.
I was the native pocho.
Least accepted natives.
Right. But we embrace all of you guys because we are native. Native is just a word.
Yeah.
Really? Native is how you connect with the earth. Native is how you understand women and know that they're their separate entity and they're sovereign in their own way. That they're your ally on this earth. Native is having a deep connection with all the elements that create our life. There's no colonial name or border or test or genetic reading. Native is in your heart. And no matter how they try to genocide it out of you, it's still there because you're still alive. We're still alive. So you don't need somebody to say, "Hey, what up, native? You do you." I don't care what anybody says. And I've got confronted hundreds of times. Can you prove that you're native? Or can look at my face, man. You can't see my fucking face.
Like an old Olmec, like ancient god.
But more than that,
Oh, that's funny.
how I treat you as a human.
Yeah.
Because I know the special, even if you're aggressive or belligerent, I still see the brilliance in humanity because I see that brilliance in myself. And to me, being humble to all the elements, to all the two-legged, the animal kingdom, even the microscopic kingdom, that's what it truly means to be at one with everything and not be at odds with yourself. Because you're that reflection of that beauty, of that mystery, of that infinite, something we will never grasp.
Yeah, and every day it's a growing. Every day you learn more something new, and that's the whole point of my what is illness, right? Like, ill is the hip, the info, the clever, witty. Like, oh, I got this information. The ness is the identity, me, fluid, chilling, existing. You know, you put it together. It's the same thing like it's hip hop, right? But an illness is an infection of information. It's so much shit I want to share. The best way I know how to do it is through my art, and everything you'll see, it's packed with words. And I don't know no other way to do it. I have to try and I force myself to slow down.
Well, that's
you know, especially
that's
hooks
just-
and bridges and things like that.
That's
But
just a development of art, though.
Yeah.
Because you'll get to stages. I mean, believe me, bro,
yes,
I started making songs at 17 years old, and my first poem is totally not the same as what I can write and do right now. Like DJ Warlock 1, it's a process. You know, there's a layer to it. It's not.
started with 2 buttons. Boom, boom,
You know,
bah, bah.
Yeah, it's you grow into it, and that's the beauty of becoming an artist and
Yeah.
who you are. And what I love about you is the fact that you play with words so much.
Yeah.
And you make words mean something that they're like. Ill is like you got to be a hip hop head to know what ill means.
Yeah, yeah.
Because nowadays the kids don't really know that lingo anymore.
Yeah, actually.
Which is what I felt
Funny.
when I saw the verses Big Daddy Kane. Big
Karis,
Daddy Kane.
come on, man. What he's doing it like he has
No, but
backup
like every
vocals.
song that Big Daddy Kane came on, like if you're not 45 years old, you're not gonna fucking get into that groove of like fucking dude. It's almost like a fucking disco song, and
Right?
I just
Yeah,
felt like,
the
damn,
beats.
Big Daddy Kane has like he needs like older audience in here to catch those fucking
What's like if
Queen
you,
Latifah style beats. And
if you
shit.
would have if he would have
My
different
respect,
beats, he
man,
would
my
have killed.
respect
No,
to-
but I get his lyricism. Don't get me wrong. I'm
Yeah.
just thinking but see, that's the difference about art, and that's what I'm pointing out with Ill is that the art, you got to keep going, and that's what Karis One did, with a deal, without a deal. He made fucking Who Am I? He made fucking all these other songs
Yeah.
that made Big Daddy Kane sound dated. Right?
Yes,
Because he
yes.
kept going
Yeah.
with his songs, right? Like, Who Am I? The MC.
Yeah.
That was put out in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Big Daddy Kane didn't have a hit single or any kind of single coming out in 2000, which made his music sound dated.
Yes, and then that's also an element you take into, I guess, when you come up with the conclusion. Even though it's all friendly, it's still hip hop. It's a battle, you know, and it go both ways because the lyricism, the performance, the words, the diction, the just like the whoa, how are you doing this? There's a lot of words in here. KRS was cutting off because it's he's used to performing, but then you bring that element, what you're saying, it's like yeah, he went through a sound from 80s, 90s, 2000s to even now.
Yeah.
You know, he went through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And intense energy, just blowing it up, like the hit after hit. He even called him out a few times, which is what hip hop is. Is like they're running out of records. Fuck that. They're running out of records.
Which made him
Yeah,
dated.
it was
made
very dated.
Big Daddy Kane
If you,
dated.
I did quite. I mean, I'm a KRS One nut. Like everything. Some stuff's a little older for me, but after that, everything. I like everything. Like even what he's done with Chris Styles, all that, right? But when you say this, I had my doubts. You say that, nah. I think KRS One took it because of that. Like you're stuck in this. Like you pretty much most of your songs sounded the same. You know?
He tried to come back with like a trap kind of. Remember that trap beat that Big Daddy Kane tried to do? Like,
Oh yeah, that's what he did with "Kill at Will." He did that song with Big Pun's son, Snow the Product.
Oh really?
Yeah, he did it with that kid that did the song. He's done a couple songs with Tech Nine. Some little white kid.
Never heard of it.
Hey, I'm a lyrical nut, so like that song I was like, oh, these people rapping, you know. But I heard him. It was that verse, "Kill at Will."
Well, I think what KRS One. I mean, it's one thing to sit on the throne like Big Daddy Kane does, and you know, with his catalog, get on pretty much anybody, any hip hop person. He's, hey, Big Daddy Kane wants to be on your fucking. All right, because he won't sound whack. He'll be dope. He'll be on time, and he'll have an ill verse.
Yeah.
But
Or that KRS One.
I just felt like KRS One still had influence past the 80s, past the 90s. He still had influence. He still kind of had his
He even had that battle
foot in the fucking door.
that battle between money and culture with Nelly, right?
Yeah, the whole Nelly thing. Like he still had new things for the future, right? In the now that we're now that he could play a song now, and it's like, oh shit, he just put that out like 10 years ago, whatever. Where Big Daddy Kane was the last time he put it out was like this Snow thing that no one heard about. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he didn't have the influence.
Well,
he was
I mean,
just
a lot
more
of
of a
people-
special guest.
It's funny though because there's like 10 million views on the video, but no one's ever heard of it. You know?
Or him.
Yeah.
Or is his new song or what?
Yeah.
You know, who am I the MC? Like, fuck, KRS One just killed it with that one. He made himself a classic past the 80s, right? That's what I'm trying to allude to, is that you made a classic song that people still listen to over 10 years that you made it, and you could still play it. What stadium or arena were they in?
Wait, what are you talking about? For
And
when?
the Verses was in
I don't know where they were at. What was that?
Brooklyn or some shit.
Oh, yeah, they were in Brooklyn. They
Was
were
it
in
the Brooklyn basketball arena or
So
whatever?
I think they were in
there you go.
Brooklyn. Yeah, because they were saying they were in Brooklyn. We're Brooklyn in the house.
I wanted to see that. I just wanted to
That
see
was
KRS
badass.
One on that kind of a stage.
So KRS One, I followed for a long time. I try to be part of the hip hop scholar thing. Try to get involved with just like hip hop as a scholarly thing, like remembering the culture and all the significance in every single aspect of each element and what everything means. Peace, love, unity, all that, right? I try to do that. But shout out to my my friend Jonathan Hernandez. Sits on Santa Ana City Council. That's pretty cool. A friend of mine, and rest in peace to Brandon Lopez too. His cousin was killed by the Anaheim police in Santa Ana. So make sure we arrest those fuckers. But he brought KRS One a couple years back to a show called Rose in the Concrete. Sorry, I'm banging on this here.
That's cool.
And he brought him, and there was like activities in the afternoon, morning, like 12 to 4, where everybody could come, sign up for things, get info, get little stuff, all the artists were around and all that. And then right around 4 or 5, they had like a round table. So it was like not really a table, but chairs in a circle, a bunch of the artists, some youngsters, KRS One, Aloe Black, Maya Jupiter, like a lot of people were there sitting, talking about what it is in hip hop and music, and create kind of like a very, very similar conversation, but about how we can use music to liberate us from different types of oppression. And KRS One says like right now, and he's all like me, he's all active. He's like, and right now, what are we doing right now? Where's your studio? He gets up, and my friend John, he's like, and guess what? My studio was literally like right around the corner. Like literally, the corner, turn left, and my studio's right there. And and there's a shower in my studio at the time, right? And I taking a shower because I just did this whole thing to help him out for the event. I'm with my band, a full band that I brought from Oregon. Shout out to DTW. I'm getting ready to shower. I'm no shirt. I'm with sweats, and my friend, you hear, he's a shorter guy, so you hear his little footsteps. And he's like, "Hey, get ready right now. KRS-One's coming to record." I'm like, yeah, whatever. Serious, bro. And I'm like, he always messes with me. But then you hear this boom, boom. These huge steps coming up the stairs. And then this behemoth of a man walks up.
He's
I'm like,
huge.
"That's KRS-One." I didn't even say hi. I just ran to the studio, started grabbing all the wires because I knew it was about to happen. It's going to get packed. And I know what he does. He's basically blessed us with the verse. I put it on a song that I have collaboration with KRS-One.
Wow.
So it's like it might not have been like the ideal way where, we signed all that stuff. Like, no, this is hip hop. And what other person that preaches hip hop in the way he does to bless me with a verse and say, it's yours. Do whatever you want with it.
Well, that is the act of a sovereign person.
Yep.
That's
He's not
somebody-
owned. He's not
Exactly,
limited
like-
by anyone.
Yeah,
He
like
can't
no
do that.
manager's going, hey, wait.
Hey, hold on. You owe us $500. Like, what the, and everyone's so excited to get on the song. And it's like, whoa.
That's the one thing I know about KRS-One is that I've had a couple experiences with him where we played with him at South Elf Graphics and then we played with him at the Roxy Theater. And so he's that kind of guy. He doesn't have, if he...
He's brought me on stage.
If he feels what you are and what you're saying, he's gonna not be. That's what it's totally opposite of this new agenda
sitting in the back, I don't know.
this hierarchy. I could bless your life with.
Like
I could
this.
change your life.
KRS-One
That's
is-
what he kept saying, right? I changed people's life. He was all mad at John Legend and fucking Sean John or whatever the fuck his name is.
KRS-One has jumped into the crowd and given the mic to people that are respected enough to not lose. This isn't madness, even though it's controlled madness. Everyone's hyped, right? And no problem walking in the crowd, even after the show, before the show. Like it's not a thing because he's one of us, right? He's a person. Right?
Yes.
From that to the difference of how ridiculous it was, and maybe there's a hip hop artist was just the same, but like people posting all over how influenced they were about getting Bad Bunny tickets. And like the funniest joke I saw was, "Oh look, $3,000 for Bad Bunny tickets. I'm here, babe." And it's like this picture of the artist so far away, you don't know who the fuck it is. You can't even see the TVs. So you paid $3,000 to sit up here to watch this. Like,
But that's it. That's kind of like
Bad Bunny is
That's
the
where
worst
it
of
goes.
where's the value? Where's the value in that? $3,000. How much you could have influenced more things and done more positive with that? I mean, if that's what you want, obviously you're gonna do what you want. Paying $5 to see KRS-One and blowing your mind, right? You're right there. You can feel it. You're part of it. You are the crowd. The crowd is nothing. Hip hop ain't nothing without the crowd, right? To being in a concert that big. I've been at big concerts,
Well,
but
we have to break the perspective.
that's
I was
value.
at that $5 concert, by the way. It was legendary.
I
it
performed
was in
one
Santa
of them.
Ana.
I performed at that one. What's up?
So
Ooh.
we have to challenge colonial perspective in the sense that it's all rooted in Greek sensationalism, right?
Oh yeah,
This-
celebritizing your
so
orders and
everything.
Yeah,
Everything is a
storytellers.
celebrity. Everything is a
Yeah.
owned, commodity. So that's really that leads into what Travis Scott kind of got himself into, right? Where he's so big,
Even Insane Clown Posse says,
50
"Watch out, guys."
50,000.
Slipknot's like, "All right, guys, next song, but take it easy out here."
50,000 people, and
That's on paper, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you. There was well over 60,000 people. Like
Maybe even
Live
more.
Nation, those scumbags are trying to, just downplay everything. But there was well over 50,000 people.
I've thrown
Right.
big events, Zero, and I saw that way that the events aren't. I thought events weren't allowed to be where you can congregate that many people in one big area. You're supposed to split it up. There's supposed to be a thing in the middle. You have your front area, then you have a big fence, and then you have your everybody in general admission. Then you have that. Then you have things on the side to everybody has an opportunity to pay for what they feel they want, right? If you want to be in the crowd, cool. But there's not so much where you can't get out of this huge sea of people. Like you can get out this way or this way, right? And it's only this big. Like it's a quarter of entire what everybody's there.
Right.
As opposed to having one sea of people. I've been hearing that the people were floating in air.
what?
Because they're just so cramped, their feet aren't even touching the floor anymore. They just go where the crowd's moving them. trying to push out so they can breathe. Yeah, imagine them being crushed and then falling, and then that space is immediately swallowed by all the pressure. And now you're in the bottom trying to force your way out. And not only are you suffocating from the pressure, you're suffocating from the heat. Like, you can't breathe. There's no oxygen where there's so much people so tightly packed together.
Right.
So the Live Nation, like, come on, guys. Like, I've thrown events similar, and I understand why the city doesn't want so many people congregating.
Well, the insurance for that day is relying on how you're going to separate the crowd. What are the exits? Then you
Is
get
there a
insured.
clear plan? Is there clear training?
How many people are going to be there? But then you become liable when you're the artist going, fuck everybody, and just cross the fucking.
Yeah.
Then you're liable.
Punch your neighbor.
Yeah. Then you're fucking liable because
Yeah.
you're causing that. You really don't want to put people in unsafe situations. And as an artist, I mean, you posted something on
Woodstock 99,
Underground
the same
Hip Hop blog where they stopped the show. It was Linkin Park, and there was during the fucking height of their fucking career, and they
100,000
stopped
people.
that
I heard
shit.
at that show, 100,000 people.
And they stopped that shit, and they're like, "Get up!" And I'm sure they're not.
We'll start it over. We'll start it over.
Well, look. Word One has a great comment. He said ICP shows, Linkin Park shows are all the same. The only difference is that all those shows, they consider each other family.
Yep.
Like the Travis Scott show, bro.
Everyone,
these kids,
individualized.
Good point.
These
Good
kids-
point.
these
That's
kids-
a fucking great ass
These
fucking
kids
point.
don't care about anyone
No,
but
they don't.
themselves,
They don't.
right? Zero.
They don't.
And that's the culture of hip hop
Yeah.
right now that's being driven. I'm disgusted.
Exactly what you're talking about.
Well-
the ego. It's exactly the same thing. It's all of that, and then you're cooler if you give a fuck less.
Right.
And then and it goes so against like ancestral teachings. The more you care and provide for others, it's showing how much you do truly care about yourself.
Well, that's the new agenda, though. That's been in place for hundreds of years.
So how do you feel about that, Zero? How like you have to be family in order for it to keep order?
Well, I remember being a kid in East Los Angeles, growing up as a skater, you went to punk scenes, right? You went to punk gigs in the backyards, and then, you would get into the pit, and then somebody would fall, but then stop. Everybody picks each other up, and then they go back into doing that.
Yeah.
But with this new version of life and this new agenda and this Luciferian kind of subtle understanding of, wow, it's kind of, you know what it is? It's based on the theory of Iran. She's a famous author.
I was about to
I
tell
ran.
you
Have you
how
heard
is
of that
Travis
book?
Scott peddling what this woman was about the individual and then your responsibilities to yourself, despite whatever else, improving yourself and driven by what you want, and you're entitled to it. Like, it's very selfish ideology.
Well,
from what I'm aware
Iran
of.
wrote a book that a lot of conservative Republicans and people that are in that
Crowley
really
talking-
don't, yeah, exactly.
Right, Crowley was the one that kind of, I don't know, something. I remember them.
All of them are connected somehow,
yeah.
some way. But Iran wrote
was the name of the book?
probably,
It's very.
Atlas Shrugged.
That's the novel, right?
Yeah, that was the book that she wrote that everyone references. So if you hear a senator reference Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged, that book basically breaks down that only the strong survive. That if you're poor and I'm rich, that's your fault.
Yeah.
And that you should die because you're the weaker.
It's all about you.
You're the weaker of the litter.
Until you are the weaker.
So now let's go back to Travis Scott's fucking concert where 8 people die. And I was like, he's probably like, well, that's probably a fucking barista at Starbucks. And, who gives a shit to the janitor or the girl or the janitor's daughter, right? Because they're the GOAT now.
Yeah.
They're the GOAT.
Yeah.
The greatest of all time. There's no such a thing, my friends. There's no such a thing as the greatest of all time. Time rules us. We don't rule time. Okay? So stop referencing that. It's stupid. It's very subtle. And it's almost like saying, like being proud of saying that you're associated with the word that made African Americans very looked upon in a derogatory way. I don't even want to say that word. And I feel like an old fart saying that, but it's really bad to associate yourself when you know that the agenda comes from 1928. 1928, they've been trying to figure this shit out until
She didn't have the right to vote yet. Oh, she did, but she barely got the right
from
to vote.
that point on. Well, it's important for them to keep us in a state of insecurity where we're insecure about certain things, right? And elevate only a few to this plateau of greatness. Travis Scott, Kanye West, Kid Cudi now, right? And none of them give a shit about their fans.
Well, Drake was on that stage too.
Oh, was he?
That piece of shit.
Well, I know he doesn't give a shit about his fans. So this is the new
I like
reality.
Psycho Realm.
This
Shout
is-
out to Sick Jack. And
Oh,
I
shout
like,
out to Psycho Realm. They
I
know
like-
how to control a crowd. I've seen literally where their crowd goes bonkers and Sick Jack literally stops the music, checks the shit out of those people getting berserk.
and everybody listens.
Yep, everyone listens.
It's almost respect. It's almost like you're more valued that you participated in that measure of safety, I guess you could say. Because the artist is telling you. So it's like juxtaposed with what Travis Scott did. It's like you're supposed to not care, and then Sick Jackin, who's like, the things that are spoken about are misunderstood by people who never lived them, and he's yet able to see the goodness in people and the camaraderie in the crowds. And
when you go to a Psycho Realm show, it has that same vibe. Like everybody's there to go see them, and
Right.
But
Yeah,
if you're the
yeah.
leader of that
But-
crew, then
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
kind of control the things. But in the case of Travis Scott and this new ideology and this new way of thinking and those kids, when a kid is begging a security guard, telling him at the top of her lungs, there's somebody dead right there, and they're still going. If I was that camera guy going, well, wait, get the fuck out of my shot, bro. I'm not fucking... what the fuck are you talking about? I don't care. Isn't there a security guy there to pick up that dead body? What the fuck? Get the fuck out of my way. That's what I saw.
Jesus Christ! Wow.
That's where humanity is being led to with interviews like Kanye West.
Yeah.
With these new fucking token agenda leaders, right? These people that are pushing fear through celebrity, right? Instead of fucking Cardi B going, coronavirus, instead of that, why don't she fucking go look up Dr. Sabi and fucking post Dr. Sabi on her fucking shit? And what can we do to strengthen ourselves against sickness and infection?
That gets into those conversations about what's making.
She's just going to drop that
making
the
us sick,
virus is
like,
getting serious.
What's making you sick? Oh, we don't want to talk about that because then it leads to the same people.
Well, look, I want to add this, these kids had no chance. Like, for me, I have experience on going to crazy festivals, right? On this, like,
You can tell when you're
Like-
not supposed to go in there.
like,
you're
if
like
16 years old.
oh, shit.
Like, why are you gonna go to a 50,000 plus festival?
yeah.
Like, I remember Audiotistic, and do you remember Audiotistic?
that a festival?
It was a festival, very similar. Electric Daisy, Electric
Gotcha.
Daisy.
That's an EDM thing. It
EDM.
happened at the Los Angeles.
When people go to those type of events, you're ready to rage. You're ready to go balls out. And it's like football. You play to not get hurt. But these kids, they had no experience. So I just feel so bad for them. Like, they were trapped, right, Illness?
Yeah.
And then you're a parent going, oh, yeah, it's just a concert. They got it all taken care of.
Yeah, that's
They-
what you
it's all
assume.
good. It's all
It's
good,
Live
yeah.
Nation. This is a big. Like they look. I mean, even parents on Google, right? So, shit. Parents are what were kids 10 years ago.
But I mean, fuck, even Phil Collins, I think, stopped the show or some shit. Remember that whole song's
Collins.
written about some guy that died in the crowd of one of his shows. And I don't know, to be
Collins?
like, I saw, right, I can hear it.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be about somebody that
It's
died
just
in
like
the crowd.
at a Slipknot show. I've actually attended a Slipknot show, bro. I was like completely out of that
bro,
mosh
it's
pit.
been me.
It's so
Yeah.
dangerous, but no one got hurt. Everyone was on the same page.
And definitely nobody died. Damn.
Inside my shell, I wait and bleed.
Man, I think...
Yeah, I know some Slipknot.
You know what, guys? I really appreciate everyone tuning in. We got a lot of late birds just chilling with us, listening
What's
to
up?
Illness. Make
What
sure
up,
you guys
sandwiches?
follow him on Instagram, subscribe to his YouTube page. He's quite possibly one of the dopest SoCal indigenous hip hop artists in the game. I'm sure DJ
props.
Warlock could vouch for that. I know Zero could vouch for that.
Absolutely.
We're all going to be gathering. DJ Warlock, Illness, Zero of El Vuh, myself, we're all going to be in the building for December 11th at the Crime Apple and Conejo event.
Absolutely.
Illness, you're rocking that second stage. DJ Warlock is rocking the second stage. If there's anyone that wants to come out, say hi to us, say hi to DJ Warlock, Illness, Zero. We're all going to be at the Catch One December 11th.
Absolutely.
Free merch. Come get infected.
Also, too,
in the
I
good way.
also want to announce that this Friday we're having the open mic at Malinali Superfoods.
Absolutely.
And it's a very special day too because I want to shout out my partner, and it'll be very close to her birthday. So we'll be celebrating Jenny, her birthday, and her. So if you're a fan of Jenny's or a client of Jenny's and you listen to the podcast, shout out to my wife, and I really care about her. I love her. She's been in my life most of my life, and I really want to celebrate a nice day with her on this open mic. And I'm honored that she's allowing LA Natives open mic night to be a part of her birthday celebration. So if you know Jenny, or if you know of Jenny, that's the day we'll be kind of celebrating her life and celebrating the community's talent and expression, because sovereignty is important. You must be, I remember the first open mic, Armando, where people were too shy to even perform. They were sitting there all night, and they were like, at the last moment, boom, raising their hand and sharing and becoming a community. And that's the way they're describing this open mic here at Malinali Superfoods in Los Angeles.
East LA.
East Los Angeles, yeah. 4528 Whittier Boulevard, East Los Angeles. And this Friday night, we will be having our open mic night and the celebration of Jenny's birthday and her beautiful spirit. I wanted to...
Big ups.
Yes. Big
I'm
ups.
gonna try and be there actually.
That'd be dope, man. Yeah,
Make it.
There's it's a Friday night open mic. Illness. We're definitely gonna invite you to rock a set. Man, that first pop up was amazing, right? It was the grand opening.
Yeah, the
first
grand
debut.
opening was.
And shout out to all the podcast listeners that went up to our booth and
Yup.
bought our merch. And I saw a couple of people already rocking our
Yeah, shout out Chris, the homie. I know he's listening
right.
to
And
LA
it's
Natives.
such an honor when people, just humbly and organically appreciate our work here at LA Natives Podcast. For as much as work that is involved, like, we do our best to do it once a week. There's a lot of work that comes into play, but it's because of you guys we keep moving forward.
Well, best believe that if we ever get to the heights of putting 50,000 people in one place, that everybody's going to be family at that concert. Everybody's going to look eye to eye and respect each other, because we have to combat this new narcissistic path that these people, they have to keep us in this state of not caring for each other, because how does wealth survive? Through greed,
Nepotism.
through not caring about others. That's how they thrive.
Yep.
And it's apparent because 8 people lost their life. 8 people. No amount of money is gonna bring that back, Travis Scott. No fucking amount of money. If that was my fucking kid, I'd be trying to fucking get to you. All right? You have to care about your people you gather in large groves. You have to care. You have to care.
You're posting
at
some
that
insensitive stuff too,
Well, we have to challenge those motherfuckers.
who didn't survive.
Those guys sit on the throne. They feel like, oh shit, we're running society. Oh look,
remember
we're
the-
fucking this and that.
Remember, the throne is made out of tissue paper. It's only given value by those people who are valuing a confused, altered system of like adulation. Like, no, people give that value. It's only amplified with money. You think it's more valuable than it really is, because they have so many people they can gather like that. And that's not real value.
But taking and exploiting kids, I'm sure that concert
Horrible.
was what, $200 or $300 to go
Tickets minimum, from what I remember, was $125 up to $2,000 per ticket.
See?
And they generated, I think, over $50 million that night.
to. Man.
Yeah, that's insane.
And in their eyes, well, only 8 people died. Well, fuck it.
50 mil.
How much should we
At least
get
it
to
wasn't
kick down?
10,
We could kick down $2 million to each one of those families, and they'll be cool. That's what I'm talking about. This monarch, fucking,
and concessions
system or theology.
Water, I'm sure.
A couple kids, from what I heard, got trampled and just because of the merch. That's how insane this society is. These kids, man. Just please, guys. If you guys listen to Travis Scott, man, screw you.
Well,
I concur.
At least say, have a silent moment for the people that were lost in that concert, because, every life is very precious, and our ancestors knew that. That's why they injected time in our psyche.
And from the pictures that I saw, they were all raza. Like there was only one white girl and maybe one Indian kid, but the other people were just straight raza.
Wow. Damn. Oh, because it was in Houston.
Yeah.
That's a huge population of
and shout out to all the survivors. Like now they're gonna start selling, Astroworld Survivor T-shirts.
Wow. I survived Astroworld. See, it made us laugh. But and it's only more valuable as a T-shirt because people died.
Exactly. And this is the sadistic world or new reality that they're trying to push us to.
You know who should have died?
Kylie
Jenner. They should have threw her ass into that damn crowd, man.
Now she would open a Pepsi and change the world.
That's Travis Scott's girlfriend or baby mama or some shit like that. But
yeah,
anyways,
one of them Kardashians.
DJ Warlock.
Yo, what up? Is this a hip hop show? Can I spit a little rap or what? What's going on?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
absolutely.
Throw a beat. Warlock.
Let me get a beat for you.
DJ Warlock 1.
Right when we got to the podcast, Illness is all, I got to rap on one of you.
We're about to end this podcast with a dope.
Yeah, what's up?
Dope ass freestyle by Illness.
Just wrote some new shit. Let me just see what's up. It's in my head, so let me see if we can get it out. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Check it out now. I am Illness, ready to infect. Yo. Snatch the mic fast, nearly ripping out your shoulder blade. State of mind crash, overstimulate your vertebrae. Better pay attention, follow order like the soldiers say. Let the heat spray, save it for a colder day. The summer's coming, so run it like the jewels. Have fun with your fuckery, but remember what we do. Say their name, hands up, don't shoot, I can't breathe. We've been telling you for years, but now you see it on your screens while you're scrolling. The death toll be growing since 1492, before the genocide omen. The wealth trade, slave trade, all the sugar cane. Now the patent office came, took my inventions away. Where I'm from, you have to fight a little more. Where you're treated a little different in the hills or the shore. Arriving home safely is a blessing out the door, when usually it's flowers and the tears will start to pour. Forcing all my mothers and my fathers from their habitat. Now the war on drugs, war on us, and the prisons packed. Facts, let me tell you where I'm from. The land of the children of the people of the sun. Yeah, that's the illness infection, yo. And that's the illness infection, yo. What's up? What you guys think of that? It's the firework.
Fire.
You know what? Thank you for closing out the segment, Illness, with that dope flow, dope freestyle. Was that a freestyle or written?
I just wrote that, so
hey, you know what? That's
getting
dope.
it out there.
You know what, Zero? Any last words?
Yes. Thanks for listening, LA natives. Thanks for coming on, Illness.
Appreciate y'all. Mad love.
And thanks for holding it down, DJ Warlock 1.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely.
It's an honor.
It was fun, man. It was fun talking to Illness and talking to the community out there. Thank you for hanging on, and understand one thing. When you take the path of connecting to your true self, that goes beyond colonial borders, flags, or anything any person has labeled anyone. The truth is, we don't know what we are. We're so beyond that understanding. That's why we choose lifetimes and take lifetimes to learn and remember and take with us as experiences. Our ancestors had sacred calendars for a reason, because those energies live within us. And as we transition, as Masatzin says, there's a skull and then there's a hekat, right? And he said that the skull or the death represents infinite transformations, because it takes a breath into life, which is a hekat, the wind. Respect that breath that lives inside of you. Respect the life that was given to you. Remain sovereign Remain true to yourself. Remain true to the community that loves you. And together, we will correct the distortion of white supremacy. We'll see you next Wednesday. My name is Zero El Vuh. Yeah.
Illness is infecting the body and mind. A state of being ill, real, how the world is designed. Your whole life you're under treatment, waiting to die. The antidote is secret unless the money is right. Court system monetized, everyone criminalized. Overpopulated prisons with conditions horrifying. No more vaccination, no more calibration of weaponry used to invade entire nations. Stop delegation, politicians racing, feeding fake lies, false flag operations. Stop deportations, Barack is on a rampage. Do